It's Vandiozo back in again with another card fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. Let's get one started. Today we have my Keter Sanctuary Bastion deck. In my personal build, I don't build my deck like this. Let me go ahead, let me take a second of water first before I continue with this. Okay, my personal Bastion deck doesn't really have any of these customizations, but when I look at it, my Bastion deck is just one set 2 card moved in there, or 2 set 2 cards, followed by everything else staying the same. So I decided to go a little bit of explorative with my build in terms of what I would show on the channel. And while this deck isn't one I particularly like the most, it is more creative in the way compared to my personal deck. So let's go ahead and get this started. First up, we have the starter of Knight of Heavenly Bow's base. Just 5k shield, 6k base, grade 0 with boost, auto when wrote upon if you win second, draw a card. Nothing special about him, but, you know, I pick him because he's the Bastion starter and he has the mega art with all of the Bastion ride line, so yeah. Trigger-wise, we have one over trigger in the form of Light Dragon Deity of Honors Amartinoa. That is not its name. 5k base, 50k shield, grade 0 with boost. Over trigger, you may only have one over trigger in the deck. When revealed as a trigger, remove that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, and it gets plus 1 million for the turn. If revealed during the drive check, activate its additional effect, which is, until end of turn, you also perform drive checks for your rear guards. That is helpful. If you've seen the video that's also going up at the same time where I use this deck against Orphis, in Game 1, cite spoilers if you haven't seen it yet, go see it now so you avoid the spoilers, I pulled the over trigger, and despite the fact during my Vanguard's drive check, I didn't see a grade 3, on my rear guard drive check, I did, and I was able to use Bastion skill to restand it. That is helpful, especially in Bastion deck, because that gives you more chance to restand, even though it is only once per turn, thankfully, because otherwise this could be really broken. It allows for more potential to come out of your rear guard attacks and get you a bunch of hand cards. I like this thing. It's a nice over trigger, one of. We have 3 copies of Knight of Heavenly Pierce Gallus. 5k base, 5k shield, grade 0 with boost, just a standard draw trigger. We have 4 fronts in the form of Bard of Heavenly Song Alpacc. Continuous guard circle, if you have Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k shield, and it has a 15k shield base with 4k power. So, you know, it's a 20k shield. You're not supposed to throw it out early. You're supposed to keep it in your hand for later purposes. This is mainly here for discard fodder, but you do also need the draws in this deck. I would suggest it. This is here to force out more power. 4 crits for Knight of Heavenly Hammer Gurgant. It's here because, like, you just want to force out some crits sometimes. You want to force them to take damage, or you want to put your opponent in a checkmate position. Even if this is not my personal build, I still hold it up to my standards of, like, mentally fucking with the opponent, so any form of crits is a good amount for me. And then 4 heals and Healer of Heavenly Staff Arshes, and these 2 are the triggers that I chose for the typing of, just because they have the mega art with Bastion. PGs, we have 4 Acgismare Dragon, 6k base, grade 1 with boost. Continuous Sentinel, you may have to 4 Sentinels in the deck. Auto, when it's placed on guard, choose one of your units and it cannot be hit on to battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand and discard it. So if this and another card's in your hand when you use it, you don't have to discard. But if this and 2 other cards are in your hand, then you do have to discard. Either way, I like that. It puts you in the situation where you could limit yourself down to 1 PG, unlike in past eras, and you could still use it and be safe. I mean, technically, the alt mount PG already had this, so I like that all the PGs kind of took off of alt mount from it. So I like this PG. It's really amazing. It looks like a zebra to me, though. 4 copies. And then our only other grade 1 in the deck, which belongs in the ride line, Knight of Heavenly Sword Fort. 8k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto, when it's rode upon by Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks, reveal 2 grade 3s. Reveal the top card of your deck, call it to rear if it's a unit card. If it's not, put it to drop. So either you see anything that isn't in order and you get a rear guard out of it, or if it is in order, it goes to drop, which kind of sucks sometimes. It happened to me once in my entire time of playing Bastion, not just this deck, but in general, and it's happened once. But at the same time, all the other times I've mostly seen grade 3s from it, except for the early experiences where I would see heal and crits. And then act rear, once per turn, counterblast 1, choose one of your grade 3 Vanguards and it gets plus 5. That ability is not really useful. I'm the type of person that I go all out or not in with the grade 3 kind of thing, which is why this is the way it is. Because in my original build, I had them both Rooks and this at 4 because I wanted to see how it would perform with the ride line. Didn't really perform as well as I thought it would. So I went just 1 Rooks, 1 of this, just like everyone else does. Kept the 4 PG, but then after that, there's no other grade 3s. And while some people agree with that, some people don't because you want to add the extra guarding power. So Fort, if you can find a way to call them out of soul, I guess use them, but the deck kind of used up at the counterblast already, so I don't really like Fort. Next up, we have our only grade 2 in the form of Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with Intercept. Auto when it's rode upon by Bastion, reveal top 3. Reveal 3 grade 3s from your hand, draw a card, continues rear during your turn if you have 3 or more grade 3 units. This unit gets boost and 5k power. So 15k power, that's okay with boost, but like you mainly use it just for that Vanguard when rode upon skill. I wish this wasn't like the case. I wish it had taken up like the Bruce ride line aspect of the early game where you don't have to like ride upon them by the certain unit of the ride line. It's just maybe a when place ability just when rode upon in general. I guess when rode upon is a bit too good, but when placed is still better. And I kind of wish they kind of gave that to this unit because just that draw doesn't feel that great. Like all things considered, this is my least favorite ride line solely because of this card. I like this one. I like this one's look, but I hate his skill entirely. And now onto our big number, just the grade 3s. 2 copies of actual Analyst Kokabiel, 13k base, grade 3 Twin Drive Persona Ride. Continues Guard Circle if your Vanguard is Apex Ruler Bastion. It gets +5 for every 2 of your grade 3 units, includes it as shield. So that's good. That's like an extra guarding power that you need. I run this as discard fodder. I know what you're thinking, that is stupid, and I agree. It sounds stupid on paper, because why would you run it if you're just going to add 5k, and why not one Snake Bitch? One, I hate Snake Bitch. She Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. That's just way too much. I use my Soul, I use my Counterblast. I am very sensitive of how I pay my cost, so I refuse to run her. And I like Kokabiel in the sense that at least I'll have 5k extra shield, or probably more than that, depending on what deck I'm facing against, if I choose not to discard her. But otherwise, she's mainly here for discard fodder, because in my personal build, when I took her out, the deck had a constant losing streak because I kept discarding the things I want, and then I realized that Kokabiel was there for a purpose, that I had unintentionally turned her into discard fodder. So 2 of, because she's mainly here for discard fodder, but she can act as a shield if she needs to. 2 copies of Knight of Broadaxe Rafluke, 13k base, grade 3 Twin Drive Persona Ride. Act rear, put it to soul, choose one of your grade 3 rear guards, and it gets +10. Unfortunately, you cannot pick the Vanguard, but that's fine because that's an immediate +15 drop to any rear guard. Or technically +10, but still probably going to be a 15k drop for any of your rear guards. That's just really nice to have. It has no other purpose being there, but it also increases the soul, which some of these cards do use up soul. So I like him. If you want to tune around with the deck, I say maybe put this at 3 of or 4 of. Either way, 2 of works for me. 3 copies of Knight of War Damage Fosado. Grade 3, Twin Drive Persona Ride, 13k base, continues rear. This unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effect, so they can't lock it, they can't bounce it, they can't send it to bottom, they can't murder it via effects, they can't send it to damage. The only way you're killing this is if you force them to call on top of it by, I don't know, using Chaos, the only thing that can do that. And the other ability, auto rear, when its attack hits, countercharge 1, soul charge 1. It's mainly here for that. The deck doesn't use up too much counterblast. It doesn't use up too much soul blast, unless like you do double Alden, which in that case, yeah, you might want to do that. But it's fine, I guess. There is one problem this deck has, and it was the whole reason why my original deck was completely different from this variant. But either way, Fosado works out. It's nice to have here. I give it a 3 of. This is one of the problems that I have with this deck, but at the same time, it's a card I put in here to like be unique with it. 3 copies of Heavenly Staff of Kind Intention Cortese, 13k base, grade 3 Twin Drive Persona Ride. Auto when you drive check it. You may reveal this card. You may call this card to an open rearguard circle. If you do, it gets boost to the end of turn. Okay. I don't mind doing that because I do constantly have open rearguard circles in the back row, especially with the grade 3 lineup, because I don't have Darkstrain anymore. But my problem with this is it only works if you drive check it, and it doesn't get the boost otherwise. So if it was just an on place, it gets boost, that would be helpful, because just by simply drive checking it, it's a vanilla afterwards. And while I guess in a sense that's also discard fodder, it's wasted if you don't drive check it. And that's really sucks when you get rid of Darkstrain for it, because Darkstrain gave everyone boost, and the only other grade 3 that has boost requires you to Persona Ride to get it. And there are games where you're not going to Persona Ride. So the consistency, in my opinion, for Bastion dropped, because one of the abilities requires you to drive check them, and while I guess to an extent you can force that to happen by playing cards like Pentagleam, while the other card require you to Persona Ride, which I don't have much problem Persona Riding Bastion. There's only been 2 or 3 games in total I've missed Persona Riding, but in the situation where you do miss it, you're not getting as much power as you would, and your opponent has the chance to live. Which is why, in my personal opinion, I chose to keep my deck mainly the same, and the only reason why I'm doing this build is just because it's more inventive, and it can hit slightly bigger numbers if you do actually get the Persona Ride off. So I guess this card's okay, but in my personal opinion, I just don't like it. But 3 of Soaring Dragon, Prideful Dragon, 13k base, grade 3, twin jet Persona Ride, the only card in this deck that actually stays. Auto rear when it attacks if you have 4 more grade 3 rear guards. Counter boss 1, soul boss 1 to draw a card. If you Persona Road this turn, you may have this unit get +5 and a crit until end of turn instead of drawing a card. I like the draw. The 5 and a crit also works out for me, but once more my problem again resurfaces. They gave Bastion so much focus on Persona Riding that it makes me think that Keter kind of got shafted really badly, because PBD didn't feel like really good to me. PBD's okay, but it's not like amazing in my opinion. Hexa Orb got like a lot of deck stacking support, and I can do a lot with fucking Hexa Orb. In Bastion, it's just weird feeling Bastion. Like, Bastion now focuses on Persona Riding. About, yeah, Hexa Orb did the same thing. At least Hexa Orb has like the other ability where your triggers give +20 to an extent, while this kind of focuses on you Persona Riding to get like half of your abilities off, and those are the half that actually matter. Like Hexa Orb's stacking skill, you don't need that to win. I've gone to games without using that to win, but yeah, while it makes it easier, this just kind of restricts all your good abilities. So, and also Hexa Orb's the only one that actually has that compared to this. So 3 of for Soaring, because he's the only one I actually like. And the other card that I have a problem with, 3 copies of Heavenly Bow of Identifying Guidance Refuerzos, 13k base, grade 3, 200 Persona Ride, continuous rear. If you Persona Road this turn, it gets boost. That's what I hate about it, because I like the other skill. I admit it's really good, but the fact that you have to Persona Ride to get it, I don't think Keter has a Persona Ride searcher. If there is, then I would like to know what it is. But there are games, no matter how consistent you think you make your deck, you're not going to always get a Persona Ride. And when those times come, half your fucking back row is useless. In fact, your back row is entirely useless. This thing's second skill doesn't even fucking matter because it can't attack from back row. If they give us a Bastion later along the line that says your grade 3s can attack from back row, then yeah, okay, this is useful then. But until then, it's got really fucked over by that one wording of Persona Ride, it gets boost. And then auto back row rear, once per turn when your other unit stands by a card's effect, stand it. I like that ability. I really do. That applies like for so much with boosting capabilities. But in all honesty, Darkstrain's fucking better. It really fucking is. You don't need this. In fact, the only reason why Darkstrain isn't in here is because Cortese can give you, I guess, a extra rear guard circle just during the battle phase, and if they deny Griffin you, well, if you're playing premium, then you can get around that. And this is here because it can stand itself, and when you have 2 units that give themselves boost, having a Soul Blast 2 that only gives itself boost at that point is kind of a wasted effort. Why would you run it if it's only going to give it to itself, and there's only 1 copy of it? So 3 over Refuerzos, in my personal opinion, this deck is not my style. If it fits someone else's style who's watching this, good on you, but my personal deck build is nowhere near this. And Alden, the only card in here that doesn't bother me completely. Grade 3, also, Twin Giant Persona Ride, 13k base. Grand Heavenly Sword, 3 copies. Auto when it's placed on rear, Counter Blast 2, Soul Blast 1. Choose a card from hand, call it to rear. If you called it grade 3, draw 2. So you're almost always going to call it grade 3. That's really nice to have, just to get a draw 2 out of it. The only problem with this is the Counter Blast 2, but the deck doesn't use up that much Counter Blast, so I'm fine with it. And then auto rear, when this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, it gets +5. So, you know, he's swinging for 18 on his own. If you count Bastion skill, which you would probably have to call him, he's 20k on his own. And with restand from Bastion skill, that's 30. And then his skill again, 35. I like that because it's not a once per turn. It can always be really helpful. So 3 of, because he's just nice to have. Speaking of Bastion, he's our MVP in our last normal unit. Apex Ruler Bastion. 13k base, grade 3 twin drive Persona Ride. Continuous van during your turn. All of your grade 3 units get +2. And auto van once per turn. At the end of the battle, your drive check revealed a grade 3. Discard a card from hand. Choose one of your rear guards. Stand it, and it gets +10. So, you know, the 2k doesn't really make that much of a difference, but it does make enough of a difference to where if you have a lot of boosters out, if it's one unit swinging, unless they're on grade 2, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But if it is with a boost, it does actually make a difference, which is why I'm kind of disappointed in this build. But it also, with the over trigger, you don't have to drive check a grade 3 during your drive check. You can drive check it during any of your drive checks. Get that restand you need, plus 10, get more attacks out of it, and while it's only 4 attacks, that's really nice to have. I love Bastion for that, and he's amazing. 4 of. And now into our last 2 cards, which are both orders. Grade 3 order of Form Up O Chosen Knights. Play this by counterblasting 1 and soul blasting 1. Perform all the effects below equal to the number of your grade 3 units. 2 or more, choose one of your units, and it gets plus 5 for the turn. 3 or more, draw a card, and 4 or more, choose one of your vanguards, and it gets plus 1 drive. Okay, the first one's okay. The second one allows you to draw, which I'm more okay with the first one. And then you get the fourth one of choose your vanguard, and it gets a drive. That is the most important one to me, because that allows you to either get more triggers or get more grade 3s. 5k is meh, but it's still okay in the sense that it can force out more numbers. And the draw is, in my personal opinion, the worst, because it's not really something flashy. But it's still okay, especially from where it is. If it was like draw and then choose 5, I would feel like that would be better placement, but it's still okay. So 2 copies, because it's still a good order regardless. And our last card is Hopeful Testode, grade 3 or Blitz order. If you have 3 or more units, choose one of your units and it gets plus 15 for the battle. So that's really easy to have, 28 on Van. The reason why I run this over the other grade 3 order, which I believe is called Sublime Will, where you get plus 20, that requires you to have 3 or more grade 3 units. You're not always going to have 3 or more grade 3 units. What if in the chance, I don't know, your opponent is somehow, you just brick really badly, and you still call down rear guards because maybe fort was a thing, and you just call down a trigger just so you can activate this? In comparison, where if you still do that, if you use Sublime Will, you won't be able to get the plus 20 because you don't have 3 or more grade 3s. Even if there are slim chances, you always have to think about, what if type of situations, because if you're in that situation, you're kind of especially when it's not going to take that much work just to implement something different. Like if you have to change the entire deck build to suit that one situation, don't do it. But in this case, it's just a matter of switching one card to another, which is why I prefer Hopeful Testode, because it has more range even if it is just 5k less. So that's my opinion on this. And that's the deck. Sorry if it was kind of a bit depressing. It's just not my type of build that I would play personally. I built this because I thought, maybe someone else would try this deck build, because maybe someone else would enjoy this. My personal style is nowhere near this, and I wanted to make it like a more set 2 variant deck compared to set 1 variant. So that is it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, follow the Twitch, join the Discord, and go check out there. And I'll see you all next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards. Thank you.